Hey everyone, Jamie Makes from Miss Paper, and today I'm sharing the process of creating the base of a traveler's notebook that I'm taking with me on a trip to Hawaii. So the first thing I did was grab a Heidi Swapp stamp set and a variety of different stamp inks. I pulled all of these from the products that I had purchased from scrapbook.com, and they included her art walk and, oh man, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but we'll have all of the links below so that you can reference those. And so the first thing I did was grab a stamp set from that collection, and using the various inks and the various stamps, I just add some stamping along the edges of my pages in total random, in a completely and totally random way. I just wanted to add some texture to the background, so they weren't just so plain white. The next thing I did was add a label sticker to the top of each of the pages. This is where I'm going to put that this is day 1 of 8, day 2 of 8, day 3 of 8, and that's something that I had done previously. And I have a alpha stamp or a number stamp from Everyday Explorers Co. that says day NO, day number, and then I'll be able to handwrite in day 1 of 8, day 2 of 8, etc. The next thing I did was adhere my papers back to back. I do this for a few different reasons. First, because stamp ink tends to bleed through onto the back side of pages, and then also just to make sure that I didn't have any excess pages in this little notebook. So there's only the exact number of pages that I need. The next thing I did was grab a stamp set that has the days of the weeks, and I'm adding it around the label sticker, kind of off the page and to the side. I just really like the additional design element that it adds there. I thought it was kind of cool to be hanging off the side and you just see the lines, above the label. And I did that for each of the pages. And then below that, I have another stamp that says destination on it, and this is where I will be able to note like where we were each day. Since we're traveling to 2 different places in Hawaii, I like to make sure to add something like that, so it's really quick and simple and easy to see where exactly we were in the photos. Then I pulled out some washi, and I'm adding it just below each of the labels. I have 8 different washis, and there were 8 different washis in that collection. And so I have 8 different days, so I'm using 1 washi per day below the label, and I really like how that works. I love that extra pattern that it adds without adding any bulk. And then I kind of mocked up what the size of the Instax would be, and I'm just drawing a simple pencil line so I know where that ends and where I would then add another element below it. But before I add anything below the Instax, I'm adding another stamp that I got from Felicity Jane. It has details and the date, and I thought that would be perfect for me to record just the everyday things that we were doing, and then it'll have the date on there, which is something I always like to include in any of my projects. And I used a stamp press for this one, a stamp platform rather, just because I wanted to make sure that I was going to get an even impression. Since it was a bit of a larger stamp, it just made it easier to make sure that it came out clearly. Off camera, I added in a 3x4-esque sized piece of cardstock that I will then add a photo on top of, and then I'm adding a tiny label underneath to either label the location or maybe put a caption. And then right next to it, I'm adding more washi. And so I'm just varying it to make sure that the washi that I added under the date isn't the exact same, and adding just a little bit more pattern to balance out onto the right side of the spread. And the next thing I'm going to do here is play with the his and her section that I've included in other years. I really like that I'm able to incorporate my husband's memories and handwriting into these. And so I'd started to do this off camera and remembered that I needed to turn the camera back on. So the first few of those off camera. But essentially what I'm doing is just using the labels and some of the other journaling spot stickers that were part of those 2 Heidi collections and adding them in the same location on each of my pages. But they just look a little different, and I kind of like that variety. Since everything else is very structured, it's nice to have something that looks completely different on each of the pages. And once I had the main part of them down, the main labels, I went back and did a little bit of embellishing with the stickers as well, um, just to add some organic shapes amongst the very linear graphic shapes, and to balance the colors and all of that fun stuff. This was like the most creative part of it, and I think it turned out really well, and I'm excited about how it looks. And then to finish off the right side of each of these Traveler's Notebook layouts, I'm adding a section called Ate This to be able to capture or to share. I guess my favorite meal is what I was essentially thinking for each of these. So I added a stamp and then that says Ate This, and then I also added a grid in some places just when I felt like it was going to be too plain to be sitting there by itself. And I used a little mock-up of a 2x2 photo to make sure that I knew what my placement, or what the best placement was going to be. So I did that on each of these, and this, because the section above it were all different, that meant that this looked a little bit different too, so it's not replicated exactly the same way on each of the pages, and I just think that that's fun. And then the last few stamps I add include this label that's going to be where I write down what I am reading or what I'm reading on each day. I use some Distress Oxide ink for that. And then the very last thing that I include is a steps spot for me to be able to track the number of steps that I'm taking in a given day.
Okay, so I've gotten as far as I want to get in this Hawaii Traveler's Notebook that I've put together, and then I will finish it when I get home, but I just wanted to give you guys a flip through of how it looks before I have left for my trip. So I'm planning to put some photos here to cover up all of this messiness from the stitching. So obviously I have to wait until after my trip to do that. I've left this open to complete after the trip as well. I could have done it today, but I'm running out of time, so I've decided not to do the trip overview or the itinerary before I leave. So it'll be something to complete when I'm done, something to complete when we come back. So this is what the pages look like now. I really just played around, and there's a few things that are consistent from the last times I have done this and a few things that I've done differently. Notably, I've included a label up here, which is pretty consistent with what I've done in the past. I've added some washi, same as that consistency. I've added in the day of the week, a place for me to put the destination, and then I found this great stamps within a Felicity Jane stamp set that I'm going to use to kind of highlight the main things that we did throughout the day. And then I also have the date here. I went ahead and pre-stamped all of that so that it would help me as I'm traveling to remember, what day it is. Also, I have this kind of placeholder that will be where I include an Instax photo. I really love these Instax photos, so I try to make sure to use them as often as possible. I actually have an Instax printer, so it makes it really easy for me to print whatever image I want on an Instax, and it just spits it straight out. The only repeat stamp that I used from last year is this weather one, and so what I plan to do, like last year, is just circle what the weather was like that day, and then I've included this bar here to put the high and the low, because I remember last time when I was doing this, I was like debating what temperature that I should put, and I just decided let's put both. And then I'm also going to denote the steps that I take using my watch. I have added this little label where I will put what I'm currently reading, because reading is a big part of any vacation for me, and I'm taking 3 books with me, so it'll be interesting to see how much of those I read, and also what I'm reading on each respective day. So I'm leaving this open for now. I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still debating how I want to do, the outfit of the day, if I'm going to do that in an Instax or if I'm going to do it down here. Also, this is nice open space for any ephemera that I might want to add directly into the notebook. I went ahead and cut out some cardstock that's a little bit larger than 3x4, and so when I get home I'll be able to print a 3x4 photo here and have that have just a little bit of a white border. And I've added this label stamp so that I can write either a caption or the location of wherever the photo was taken. I've added in some washi tape, And then I'm doing things very differently in terms of my favorite versus Matt's favorites. So I really wanted to use some of the stickers that came with the Heidi Swap, the 2 collections that I had purchased to use with this. So I really wanted to use those. And so this is going to be different on every single page. And I plan to just add like a sticker here that says hers, his, she, him, you know, whatever I decide to do here. And we'll both be able to add to this one sticker, and it'll be different on each of the pages, but I'll get there in a second. And then down here, I decided I wanted to document like food. That's one thing I really don't tend to scrapbook. Like occasionally I will take photos of what we eaten, or if it's like a really special meal of some kind, like one of the meals that we had on our honeymoon, I will scrapbook about this, but I really don't scrapbook about food very often. But when you're traveling, you're kind of always on the hunt for food and on the hunt for good food. So I thought I could include a spot here that is about some of the food that we've eaten. And so I plan to print 2x2 photos of just the meal to include here. And then I've added this stamp set from Carrie Bradford. It's a stamp from Carrie Bradford and little stars underneath so that I can kind of rate how good the food was. And then down here I can, you know, write what it was or where we were, or, you know, something about the food. I use this background stamp. It's from Everyday Explorers Co. Felicitas designed this. I think it's called Mixed Marks. I will be linking everything below in the YouTube description box. So if you're interested in finding out the specific products, I will have those available for you. So that's consistently what it looks like page on page. But like I said, this part is going to change just a little bit. So there's one for her and him. And then I'm also flipping it to where on one page, the 2x2 photo will be on the left, and then on the next page, it'll be on the right. And I think that just helps balance the actual thickness of the traveler's notebook once it's done. I decided not to stamp this little grid on every page because I had already done a bit of stamping at the very beginning, and so I didn't want to overwhelm it, but in some instances I did add it. But it's the same format. All of this is the same with the exception of, you know, some of the stamping. Here's another one that I'm planning to use for her and him. And then this will probably be like right around here. And these obviously aren't, you know, I'm going to be adding final touches and different things around there. Like I know that I probably want to add maybe like a word strip here, something so this trap space isn't just kind of hanging out there. So I'll be adding little bits and pieces when I complete this album in the end. I decided this photo would go down here. Probably maybe I'll add some washi right there to avoid this kind of empty space. I don't know, it's obviously a complete work in progress, but I'm excited to have this base, this foundation done so that when I get home, so that while we're traveling, I'll be able to fill in the various details. And then when I get home, it'll be a real quick and simple job just to print out photos and add the final touches and call this little album done. So I'm really excited with how this has turned out so far, and I'm excited about it, but I'm kind of like, it's not that cute. But it's not that cute because you're seeing some of the bare bones. Like this is going to be covered up, and you don't get to see all of the pretty text that, not that my handwriting is amazing, but you don't get to see all of the text that will be included here and all that good stuff. So still a work in progress. Definitely planning to do something, you know, in here. Might even decide to put the photo up here. I don't know. I will play around with that, and I will share that in a later video with you guys so that you can see how it all came together. And then at the end, I didn't add the ephemera pocket. I will do that when I'm finalizing the little notebook. And then also, obviously, I have no photos for this just yet, but I'm really excited. All my plans are to literally take this and a pen, and I have a big pack of these from that I got from Amazon to use to kind of sort my ephemera, because I have so much ephemera, but I think it's also perfect for traveling with because it's a bit sturdier plastic. And so all I will do is put these two things together, and I will include any of my ephemera in here, and when I get home, all of my Hawaii ephemera will live in this pocket until I decide to add it into my either this traveler's notebook or the 6x8 that I know that I'm planning to put together, and it'll be all organized and ready to go.
So when I get back, I'll be sure to film a process of bringing it all together with the photos and the ephemera. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it and or subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you. Jamie Makes, signing off.